So this is going to be a bit of an impromptu video. So I was thinking the other day that I've got a load of games that I've not actually shown on any video on the channel. And the main reason for that is I've visited some random shops where I've not actually taken my camera, so I've not done a video, therefore I didn't bother to do a pickups video. The first three, however, is from a video I did last year in Herefordshire, and the subject of that video was, can I find any retro games in the countryside? So I went to places like Leominster, Ludlow, and then eventually Hereford, the main city of Herefordshire, and those little collector shops and antique shops didn't really have anything that I wanted, and the only games I found, unfortunately, was in CEX, and that's a shop I don't really go into. If I'm passing, I will nip in just to see if they've got any like cheap retro games, but more often than not I just go for a good chuckle at their prices. But these three weren't too bad. These were £15 each, and they're all on the Mega Drive. In fact, a lot of these games are on the Mega Drive, and there's a few Master System games. So at the end of that video I did mention that I will one day get round to showing you what I got from CEX, and here we are nearly 18 months later. And the first game I got from CEX is one I've been after for a while, and I've never played it up until now, and that is James Bond 007 The Duel. James Bond 007 The Duel was published by Domark in late 1992 for the Mega Drive, and was also ported to the Sega Master System and Game Gear the following year. The game is an action platformer reminiscent of arcade classics such as Rolling Thunder and Sly Spy. You take control of MI6's top secret agent as he races to rescue female hostages, disarm bombs, and defeat the bad guys throughout the game's 4 levels. As this was released in the early 90s, Timothy Dalton was still technically 007, and it's his likeness that is featured in the game. Therefore, this game is Dalton's last appearance as Bond. And of course these are all complete, and for some reason the logo on the manual is in pink as opposed to blue. Not sure why they went with pink. Now this next one is one of the few Disney games I've got. So I've got Aladdin, and I've had that for 30 odd years, and I've got the Lion King, and I only picked this up because this looks amazing on a 16-bit machine, and that is Toy Story.
To infinity and beyond!
Released in 1995 by Disney Interactive and developed by Traveller's Tales, Toy Story on the Mega Drive was a technical marvel for its time. It pushed the hardware with digitised graphics and animations that closely mirrored the film, giving players the chance to step into Woody's cowboy boots across a variety of levels inspired by the movie.
Codebread! Move, move, move!
The gameplay mixes platforming, puzzle solving and even a few vehicle segments, all wrapped in a surprisingly cinematic presentation. It's one of those licensed games that actually lives up to its source material, and for fans of the film, it's a nostalgic treat that still holds up surprisingly well. And like I said, all these are complete. The manual for Toy Story is a little dog-eared, but it was obviously owned by a child at some point. And the last game I got from CEX is based on the Looney Tunes characters, and I think this is the second one. The first one being Tasmania, and this is Taz in Escape from Mars. Taz in Escape from Mars was released in 1994 and developed by Head Games. It's a sequel to Tasmania and sees the Looney Tunes icon abducted by Marvin the Martian and whisked away to the Red Planet. What follows is a chaotic platforming adventure full of spinning attacks, slapstick humour and intergalactic weirdness. The game's visuals are colourful, crisp and the level design is surprisingly varied, taking Taz from Martian labs to haunted castles across 6 levels. It's not the most refined platformer on the system, but it captures the manic energy of the character perfectly, and who doesn't love a game where you can eat everything in sight? So yeah, not a bad little game. I do prefer the first Tasmania. I've got it on the Master System, but I've not got it on the Mega Drive. I think my friend had it in the 90s, and we used to play that. But yeah, from what I remember, the first one is a better game. Now, these next games are from Manic Miners. I did a couple of videos at Manic Miners last year, and he got this huge job lot off someone, and he posted some of the games on Facebook, and one of the games I was after. So I sent him a message and said, can you keep hold of that one? And I rushed to Manic Miners and picked up Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the Hyperstone Heist. Released in 1992 by Konami, the Hyperstone Heist is often seen as the Mega Drive's answer to the SNES classic Turtles in Time. It features the same beat-em-up gameplay, slick animations and catchy soundtrack, but with a slightly different structure and fewer levels. Despite being shorter, it's still a blast to play, especially in co-op. The combat feels tight, the sprite work is top notch and the turtles each have their own distinct feel. For fans of the franchise, this is one of the best ways to experience shell-kicking action on Sega's 16-bit powerhouse. So I've no idea why I didn't buy this back in the day, because I loved the Turtles arcade games. I did have Turtles in Time on the SNES, and this is very similar to Turtles in Time, different level layout and a different story. But yeah, it's a great game on the Mega Drive. Now these next two are from a series on the Mega Drive, well, not on the Mega Drive, there's three on the Mega Drive. The first one was only released in Japan on various computers. And this first one is the first one they released on the Genesis and Mega Drive, and that is Thunder Force 2. Originally released in Japan in 1988, Thunder Force 2 was one of the early titles for the Sega Mega Drive and helped establish the system's reputation for fast-paced shooters. Developed by Technosoft, it features a mix of overhead and side-scrolling stages, which was a unique twist at the time. While the overhead sections can feel a bit dated, the side-scrolling levels are where the game really shines. With intense action, a rocking soundtrack and plenty of power-ups, Thunder Force 2 laid the groundwork for what would become one of the most beloved shoot-'em-up series on the system. So this isn't a bad game. I just prefer the side-scrolling shoot-'em-up sections as opposed to the overhead ones. But the next one starts off with side-scrolling, and I think it's side-scrolling all the way through the game, and that is Thunder Force 4. Released in 1992, Thunder Force 4 is often considered the pinnacle of the series on the Mega Drive. Technosoft went all out with this one. Massive levels, jaw-dropping parallax scrolling and a great soundtrack. It's a technical showcase and a fan favourite among shmup enthusiasts. The gameplay is fast, fluid and packed with challenges. You can choose your starting level, customise your weapons and take on some of the most visually stunning bosses of the 16-bit era. If you want to show off what the Mega Drive was capable of, then this was the game to do it. So like I said, this is a much better game than Thunder Force 2. Unfortunately, Thunder Force 3 only got released in Japan and North America. For some reason, it never got released in the UK or in Europe for the Mega Drive. I probably will pick up Thunder Force 3 at some point. I think you can get it on a compilation or a double pack on the Sega Saturn, so I might just get it on that. But again, that was only released in Japan and the US. Now this next one is an absolute classic on the Mega Drive. I've got the first one on the Mega CD as part of the Sega Classics collection, and I just had to get this because this has possibly the best music on the system, and that is Streets of Rage 2. Streets of Rage 2 was released in 1992 and is widely regarded as one of the greatest beat-em-ups of all time. Sega refined everything from the original: better graphics, smoother gameplay and an iconic soundtrack that still gets heads nodding today. With 4 playable characters, each with their own moves and strengths, and a wide variety of enemies and stages, it's a game that's endlessly replayable. Whether you're playing solo or with a friend, it's hard to beat the satisfaction of cleaning up the streets with a flurry of punches and flying kicks. So me and my wife played through this game at Christmas. I think we got to the end, but that just goes to show how long I've had these games. And on to the Master System games I got from Manic Miners. And this next one is the sequel. I got the first one when I went to France. I'm not really a fan of the first game, but I bought the second game anyway, and that is Strider 2. Strider 2 was released for the Master System in 1992, and while it shares the name with Capcom's arcade classic, it's actually a sequel developed by US Gold and Tiertex. The game follows Hiryu, the high-tech ninja, as he battles through futuristic stages filled with robotic enemies and environmental hazards. Compared to its Mega Drive counterpart, the Master System version is understandably scaled down, but it still manages to capture the essence of fast-paced action. The sprite work is solid and the soundtrack does a decent job of keeping the adrenaline flowing. It's not quite the arcade experience, but for an 8-bit system, it's a respectable effort. And I've said this before, I really want to like Strider, but I just can't get into the games. Now this next one I've had in the past, but I think it was unboxed. And I've had the 3D version of this for a while, so I just picked up the original 2D version of Space Harrier. Space Harrier on the Master System is a surprisingly faithful port of Sega's 1985 arcade hit. You play as a jetpack-wearing warrior flying through the surreal landscapes, blasting bizarre enemies like flying heads and dragons. It's fast, frantic and totally unique. While the visuals are simplified compared to the arcade original, the game still moves at a brisk pace and retains that psychedelic charm. The scaling effects are impressive for the hardware and the gameplay remains addictive. It's one of those titles that really shows off what the Master System could do when pushed to its limits. So another classic arcade conversion on the Master System with that lovely minimalistic artwork that I love so much. And the final game I got from Manic Miners is a classic that I used to play all the time on the Amiga, but I could never get very far. And I think this is the only time I've got to the second level on any platform. And that is the classic Psygnosis game, Shadow of the Beast. Originally developed by Reflections and published by Psygnosis, Shadow of the Beast was known for its stunning visuals and atmospheric soundtrack on the Amiga. The Master System version, released in 1992, is a much more stripped down experience, but still tries to capture the dark fantasy vibe of the original. You play as Arbron, a beast-like warrior seeking revenge against the evil mage who transformed him. The game features side-scrolling action with a focus on exploration and combat. While the graphics and sound are limited by the hardware, it's still an ambitious title for the Master System and a fascinating piece of gaming history. Now, this next one was on my original list, but because I couldn't find it anywhere, whether it was at a gaming market or any retro gaming shops, I just looked on eBay and found a reasonably priced one, and that is Jurassic Park Rampage Edition. Jurassic Park Rampage Edition, released in 1994, is a follow-up to the original Jurassic Park game on the Mega Drive. This time the action is faster, the levels are more varied, and once again you get to play as both Dr. Grant and a raptor. It's a run and gun, or a run and claw platformer that has a more arcade-like feel than its predecessor. While it's not the most polished game in the Jurassic Park lineup, it's got a certain chaotic charm and some cool ideas that make it worth revisiting, especially if you're a fan of the film franchise. So this game is very similar to the original Jurassic Park on the Mega Drive, where you can choose between Alan Grant or the Raptor, but in this one you can choose which levels you play. You get a choice of 3 levels to start on. Now, the last 3 are from various game shops that I've visited, the first one being in my hometown, and it's on a market stall called Gremlins Games, and that is Desert Speed Trap, starring Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Released in 1993, Desert Speed Trap is a charming platformer featuring the eternal chase between Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Developed by Probe and published by Sega, the game captures the slapstick energy of the cartoons with colourful visuals and playful level design. You control Roadrunner zipping through the desert environment while avoiding traps, collecting birdseed and outsmarting Wile E. Coyote's endless contraptions. It's light-hearted, fast-paced, sometimes a little too fast, and surprisingly fun. For fans of Looney Tunes, it's a delightful addition to the Master System library. So it's not a bad looking game, it's very colourful and very fast, as you would expect with Roadrunner. But it's one of those games where it has inertia, so if you stop, your character carries on going. But yeah, it's okay. It was only a tenner. It's in really nice condition, so I just picked it up. This next one I got last weekend from Lempster. So when I mentioned the Herefordshire game hunt, where I couldn't find any retro games in those small market towns, last weekend we went back there and I did find a game in it wasn't a charity shop and it wasn't an antique shop, it was like they had a bit of everything really, like DVDs and vinyls, and they had a Detolf cabinet with a few retro games, and I spotted Mercs. Mercs, released in 1991, is a port of Capcom's arcade run-and-gun shooter, and the sequel to their 1985 hit Commando. Unlike the arcade version, the Mega Drive release includes an exclusive original mode with new levels and a weapon upgrade system, which adds a bit more depth to the action. The gameplay is simple but satisfying. Move forward, shoot everything, rescue hostages, blow up tanks, you get the picture. It's got that classic arcade feel, and the added content makes it one of the better home conversions of the era. A must-have for fans of military shooters. So this last one I got from Dagfield's Antique and Craft Centre. So I think it was last month I did a video there at 88 miles per hour toys and collectibles, but we did go the weekend before then, and I got this from one of the antique halls that's had a stall with vintage toys and retro games. And it's one I've been after for a while because I love the arcade game, even though it is extremely difficult, and that is Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts hit the Mega Drive in Europe in 1990 and was one of the system's early standout titles. A port of the classic arcade game, it's known for its brutal difficulty, eerie atmosphere and iconic protagonist Sir Arthur, who loses his armour with a single hit and fights demons in his boxers. Despite its challenge, the game is beautifully crafted with detailed sprites, haunting music and tight controls. It's a rite of passage for retro gamers and a perfect example of arcade action done right on a home console. So that is not a bad port at all. It's very faithful to the original arcade and just as hard. So those are all the games I've got over the last, I don't know, 12 months or so that I've not shown on camera. But next weekend is Sheffield Gaming Market. Now, I've not planned to go because we've got tickets to go and watch Gladiators being filmed. And even though we've got a QR code to get the tickets, we're not guaranteed to get in. So, if we don't get into Gladiators, we're going to be in Sheffield anyway, so we can just head over to Sheffield Gaming Market and hopefully pay on the door. So I will probably take my camera, even though I did say a couple of months ago that I wasn't going to do any more gaming markets until Play Expo. We get in a hotel the night before, so rather than wasting the money for the hotel, we might as well make use of a day in Sheffield and just go to the gaming market. But hopefully we'll get into Gladiators because it'd be interesting to see that being filmed. And like I said, if we can't, I'll probably do a video at Sheffield Gaming Market. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye!